Janna Pallava Girivaradari Jashodanandana Praja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Praja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Gopi Janna Vallabha Girivaradari Jashodanandana Praja Janaranjana Jashodanandana Praja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajak Acharya Astutara Satyasri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Nama-āśrayam Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasa Adi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinatha Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Gira Govardhan Ki Jai Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Sri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Jamuna Mayi Ki Jai Ganga Mayi Ki Jai Srimati Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Srimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai Transcendental Book Distribution Yagya Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Sankirtan Movement Ki Jai Jagat Guru ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much, Srila Prabhupada. I know I changed it, but I couldn't help myself. Hare Krishna. So we are reading from the third canto, chapter 4, titled Vidura Approaches Maitreya, text number 30. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So just before we chant text 30, I'm going to read just the English of text 29. It was such a long time ago, yesterday, to give us the context. Text 29, Srila Prabhupada translated as, Shukadev Goswami replied, "My dear king, the cursing of the Brahmins was only a plea, but the actual fact was the supreme desire of the Lord. He wanted to disappear from the face of the earth after dispatching his excessively numerous family members," which, by the way, totaled the Yadav dynasty in all the divisions, 540 million. In case you forgot. He thought to himself as follows. So that was yesterday's text. Now today, text 30. Asmāt, lokāt, uparate, mayi, jñānam, mat-āśrayam, arhati, uddhava, evāddhā, sampraty, ātmavatāṁ, varaḥ, asmāl. Wait. Give me a second. I have to bring it closer. Asmāl lokād uparate, mayi jñānam mad-āśrayam, arhati uddhava evāddhā, samprati ātmavatāṁ varaḥ, asmāl lokād uparate, mayi jñānam mad-āśrayam, arhati uddhava evāddhā, samprati ātmavatāṁ varaḥ, asmāl lokād uparate, mayi jñānam mad-āśrayam, arhati uddhava evāddhā, samprati ātmavatāṁ varaḥ, asmāl lokād uparate, mayi jñānam mad-āśrayam, arhati uddhava evāddhā, samprati ātmavatāṁ varaḥ, asmāl lokād uparate, mayi jñānam mad-āśrayam, arhati uddhava evāddhā, samprati ātmavatāṁ varaḥ, asmāl lokād uparate, mayi jñānam mad-āśrayam, arhati uddhava evāddhā, samprati ātmavatāṁ varaḥ, asmāl lokād uparate, mayi jñānam mad-āśrayam arhaty uddhava evāddhā samprati ātmavatāṁ varaḥ. Vaishnavis. Uparate. Mayi jñānam mad-āśrayam arhati uddhava evāddhā samprati ātmavatāṁ varaḥ asmāl lokād uparate mayi jñānam mad-āśrayam arhati uddhava evāddhā samprati ātmavatāṁ varaḥ. Some word meanings by Srila Prabhupada. Asmāt, from this universe. Lokāt, earth. Uparate, having disappeared. Mayi, of myself. Jñānaṁ, knowledge. Mat-āśrayam, concerning myself. Arhati, deserves. Uddhava, evāddhā, certainly. Addhā, directly. Samprati, at the present moment. Ātmavatāṁ, of the devotees. Varaḥ, foremost. English translation and English purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation, spoken by Lord Krishna. Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with knowledge about me. So just before we repeat, how could this not remind us also of Srila Prabhupada? When, as you say it, and you think of what it's describing, that can also apply to our Srila Prabhupada. So, translation. Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world. Now I shall. And I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with knowledge about me. Purport. Jñānaṁ mad-āśrayam is significant in this verse. Transcendental knowledge has three departmental divisions, namely, knowledge of impersonal Brahman, knowledge of the all-pervading supersoul, and knowledge of the personality of Godhead. Out of the three, transcendental knowledge of the personality of Godhead has special significance and is known as bhagavat-tattva-vijñāna, specific knowledge of the personality of Godhead. This specific knowledge is realized by pure devotional service and no other means. Bhagavad-gītā, chapter 18, text 55, confirms this. Bhaktya mam avijñānati yavanyas chasmi tattvataha. Quote, only persons engaged in devotional service can factually know the transcendental position of the Lord, end quote. Uddhava was considered to be the best amongst all devotees of that time, and therefore he was directly instructed by the Lord's grace, so that people might take advantage of Uddhava's knowledge after the disappearance of the Lord for from the vision of the world. This is one of the reasons why Uddhava was advised to go to Badarika-ashrama, where the Lord is personally represented by the Nara-Nārāyaṇa Deity, one who is transcendentally advanced, can gain direct inspiration from the temple deity. I'm just going to read that sentence again. One who is transcendentally advanced can gain direct inspiration from the temple deity, and thus a devotee of the Lord always takes shelter of a recognized temple of the Lord in order to make tangible advancement in transcendental knowledge by the grace of the Lord. And the translation one more time. Now I shall leave the vision of this mundane world, and I see that Uddhava, the foremost of my devotees, is the only one who can be directly entrusted with knowledge about me. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyalanjana Shalakaya Chakshus Unmilitandyena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patita Nan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasa Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Sorry. So, why did Lord Krishna desire to leave this world? In the prior verse, Sukadeva Goswami said, we're now going to hear how the Lord thought to himself as follows. And in this verse, now I shall leave the vision of this world. So, in the 11th canto commentary, found it. It is written in chapter 31, text 13, Krishna did not want to encourage people in the future to loiter here unnecessarily. What a wonderful sentence, describing how Krishna was thinking about why he would leave. He, Lord Krishna, did not want to encourage people of the future to loiter here unnecessarily. As soon as possible, one should perfect one's Krishna consciousness and go back home, back to Godhead. And the last sentence of that section of commentary. If Lord Krishna had remained longer on this earth, he would have unnecessarily increased the prestige of the material world. What a wonderful sentence. I'll read that again. If Lord Krishna had remained longer on the earth, he would have unnecessarily increased the prestige of the material world. So, here in this text 30, we're hearing how Krishna is thinking, but jumping to 11th canto, we're understanding more deeply why he was thinking like that, to leave, both to show all jivas, all souls, not to loiter here a second longer than necessary. And what is the meaning of necessary? The meaning of necessary is we use this human form of life to become completely, unconditionally, with no motivation, madly in love with Krishna. That is what it means to have this human form of life and use it in that way for the purpose that Krishna intended it, and not loiter beyond that for anything else. And certainly not to increase the prestige of the material world for any reason. So what is the mission of Uddhava? To carry knowledge that was directly entrusted to him. So when I read this, how could I not think of our Srila Prabhupada? An amazing, eternal, intimate, and confidential, direct associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the spiritual kingdom of God, being sent down into this universe, to this lump called the earth, with a mission, entrusted with a specific mission. And as we read in this chapter 3, text 6, that Uddhava, I can't see, so if the deity's open, just go Haribol. So, as we read in the prior chapter and purport, Uddhava was simultaneously in the spiritual world and here on earth. That is inconceivable to us, because even if we've heard about the mystic yoga siddhi, where one can expand himself into, let's say, 8 different forms. Prabhupada writes, when he describes that siddhi, it's a type of, he calls it mystic television. And by that, Prabhupada means what the original form is doing and thinking, all other forms are doing the exact same thing. They're just broadcasts of that form. They're not different. So that's the material mystic siddhi. That's not what's being described when it says that Uddhava was in the spiritual world having his pastimes with Krishna, and simultaneously in the material world entrusted with a mission. So you see the difference. It's incredible, and beyond the ability of, and I love that Prabhupada has always described us as having puny brains. So, another example, we know that a portion of Lord Brahma appears during Chaitanya Leela as the Nara-Nārāyaṇa Srila Haridas Thakur. Okay, while he is appearing in that form of Haridas Thakur, does it mean that Satyaloka Brahmaloka is missing Brahma? No. He's simultaneously in his topmost planet of this universe, and then simultaneously appearing, doing totally different transcendental activities as Haridas Thakur. This is what I feel is the beginning of how we can understand the position of Srila Prabhupada. As Krishna never leaves Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada is eternally engaged in an ever-expanding, ever-blissful rasa directly with Krishna in Krishna Lok, in Vrindavan. Directly. No question about it. And because it is spiritual, it can never stop. Therefore, uninterruptible. Rasa means uninterruptible. That's what's happening with our Srila Prabhupada while he's appeared before us for those short years. Hare Krishna. I take that as a confirmation. Hare Krishna. So this is beyond our scope of understanding, that you could be in two places, that you could be in the spiritual world and serving in the material world and doing totally different things in the exact same rasa, in the exact same mood, but the appearance of and the activity is special for the spiritual lok, Krishna lok, and special for the earthly lok. So, for me, that is the beginning of how I try to understand our Srila Prabhupada. So, many, many decades ago, Srila Prabhupada graciously allowed the devotees and gave the devotees two mantras, which we call it pranam mantras. And they both describe what we just spoke of. Na Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namane. That's Prabhupada in the spiritual world of Krishna Lok. And Namaste Saraswati Devi, that means the whole sampradaya, coming through Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharine, specifically empowered to have no separate interest at all from the interest of the Sri Panchatattva. Nothing, no difference, no different intent, no different purpose, no different mood. So, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pracharine. And what is the result of being the foremost devotee of the Sri Panchatattva in all of existence? What is the result? Nirvasesha, Shunyavadi, Paschatya Desha Dharine. So that is a very specific mission, to free the world of Nirvasesha and Shunyavadi. So, as devotees, since however long we've been chanting that prana mantra, we've been reflecting on what it means. What does Nirvasesha Shunyavadi mean? Is it just some obtuse or very rarefied philosophy spoken by Mayavadi philosophers steeped in Vedanta? Actually, it means much, much, much more than that. So, as Krishna consciousness is a jewel, and if you turn it in different ways, each time you turn it, it has a different angle of vision, a different perspective. So, this is just, what I'm trying to present is just one of the unlimited perspectives. So, Nirvasesha, Shunyavadi. There is no God. Let's start with that meaning. There is no personal form, personal identity, personality of the Supreme. Either he doesn't exist at all, or he just exists as the energy of everything which has no form and no illusion. But Nirvasesha Shunyavadi essentially means every school in the entire earthly planet is teaching that the beginning of life, the beginning of the earth, the beginning of planetary systems and stars, and the beginning of the whole universe has nirvasesha shunyavadi, has no God, no design, no purpose. It came about because the material energy is eternal, somehow. It manifests in different forms, somehow. And out of millions and billions of possible ways of interacting, one way caused what used to be thought of as the Big Bang, an explosion of material energy that suddenly manifests all the elements of a universe. Now, they have refined that philosophy over the decades, but essentially, it's just by accident that there's a universe with no purpose. Accident means there is no purpose. There's no design behind it. Similarly, the first living being, which is a tiny microscopic cell, somehow by accident, random combinations and bumping into each other and permutations, somehow finally a living cell, a tiny microscopic living cell, emerges from what they call a primordial soup. Now, this is being taught to the entire human race. In most countries, they do not allow the teaching of anything spiritual side by side with their theories, and they present their theories as already proven facts. So, how is this not just Prabhupada's mission, but every one of our mission? There are two wonderful texts in the Sri Isopanishad, which I'm just going to read, not the purports, which are such nectar, but text 11 and text 14 of our Sri Isopanishad. And before the class ends, I'm going to get to some personal quotes that you may not have heard from my diary of being with Prabhupada, which are along these lines. So text 11, I'll just read, well, I should always read the Sanskrit. Vidyam cha vidyam chayas, tad vedo bhayam saha, avidyaya mrityum tirtva, vidyayam ritam ashante. Only one who can learn the process of nescience and that of transcendental knowledge side by side can transcend the influence of repeated birth and death and enjoy the full blessings of immortality. When I read this, I feel it is telling us that not only do we have to be preachers of Krishna consciousness, but we have to totally understand how to be devotee science preachers. Because we have to understand and present to the world, side by side, the philosophies of everything comes about when there is no God, and everything comes about from a source that is already full and complete. We have to know both to transcend the influence of repeated birth and death. That's a direct statement from Shastra. Now, what does it say in Mantra 14? Something very similar. Sambhutim cha vinasham cha. Maybe that is also confirmation. Maybe. Yastad vedo bhayam saha vinashena mrityum tirtva samrutamritam ashnute. Translation: one should know perfectly, we're not perfect yet, but one should know perfectly the personality of Godhead Sri Krishna and his transcendental name, form, qualities, and pastimes. But here it comes. As well as, so just as we have to know that perfectly, as well as the temporary material creation with its temporary demigods, men, and animals. When one knows these, he or she surpasses death and the ephemeral cosmic manifestation with it. And then in the eternal kingdom of God, he or she enjoys his eternal life of bliss and knowledge. So we are being told in Shastra that what Prabhupada came to deliver the world from, we have to become experts in. We must know what they are, what the asuras are teaching every human in every level of schools, on every town, village, city, state, country, continent of this world. They are teaching this everywhere. The asuras have gained control in that way through the process of teaching in the schools. And what is the result? It's wonderfully described by Lord Krishna in his Bhagavad-gītā as it is, that the result of such teachings is that every soul in such human bodies will be repeatedly die and take birth in the body of an asura in the womb of a mother. Krishna says this. The result of this demonic asuric teaching is that you forever take birth as an asura yourself. Prabhupada came to free the world from right now the total control of the asuras, which is leading everyone that we see in human form to take their next birth as an asura in the womb of their mother. Repeatedly, it took so many pious activities and births just to get a human body, and after these repeated asuric births, then the soul is sent back down into the lower species. That's the future. Before Prabhupada and before Lord Chaitanya. That's the future of the world. That was our future as well. So, Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarani, to me that means Prabhupada being directly empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to free this earth from that contaminated, polluted asuric philosophy. But the asuras have such a jump. They've taken over the curriculums of every single school in the world. Now, what about our ISKCON schools? Our ISKCON schools are wonderful, but I humbly say this to all the educators. They also don't teach how to preach and understand what's going on by the asuras and all the other schools of the world, so that when you come out of an ISKCON school, you're fully equipped to preach against it or expose it. That should be part of the curriculum of every ISKCON school, every ISKCON academy, and every ISKCON institute in this world. We have to train our devotees, if they ever want to overcome death in the material world, as the Isa Upanishad said, We have to train our devotees to understand this side by side, and then they're released into the world to save the world from nirvisesha and shunyavadi. So, while reflecting on that, Srila Prabhupada said some wonderful things all the time. Everything he says is wonderful. I'm just going to read a few quotes that I wrote down when I was traveling with Prabhupada. This was in January of 1977, directly about this. And then we'll take questions on anything you want to ask. Hare Krishna. Here's an amazing quote on January 21st. By Sankirtan, the Hare Krishna mantra is creating an auspicious atmosphere all over the world, which is creating more religious sentiment, directly and indirectly, worldwide. We don't care for any credit, just that their misconception is cleared. Our credit is how we are serving Krishna in this way. So I asked Prabhupada many times during this period, what does it mean that we're creating a different atmosphere by the Sankirtan Yajna? And he would explain, yes, what's happening, this Sankirtan Yajna has come directly from the spiritual world. It's not a material movement that was created in the material world. It's not like any movement. It's not like any political ideology. It's not like any ism, which humans create or demigods create, whatever. This is directly, eternally coming down from the spiritual world, and Prabhupada brought it to the Western world and then the whole world. He had that ability and was empowered to do that, to bring it down to this earth. And I keep thinking this is confirmation. And the performance of mass Harinam Sankirtan and the performance of the greater mass transcendental book distribution is releasing the spiritual potency of the Lord into the atmosphere of this earth. It's right now a polluted atmosphere in Kali Yuga. But for 10,000 years, that will be cleansed away. The atmosphere on this earth, starting on this earth, will be spiritually surcharged, so that what Krishna describes in Bhagavad-gītā, the opposite will happen. Souls taking birth in the demonic atmosphere, under the demonic atmosphere, are forever taking birth in demonic species. Well, souls taking birth in this spiritualized atmosphere will repeatedly take birth with godly sentiments and godly qualities. Little by little, generation by generation, such godly souls will fill up the population of the earth. So in that way, I asked Prabhupada, you say there's going to be a revolution. Here's another quote. One world government will be established. Will force the U.S. to fight Russia? Maybe. At that time, that was the sentiment. Parliament, Congress, elections will continue, but candidates must have Brahminical qualifications. Our movement must kill, figuratively. Do not take this as you're suddenly a kshatriya. Must kill the two great demons of this age. Godless communism, or godless government, which is now every government, and godless science. That's the purpose of the Hare Krishna movement. So, imagine 3, 4, 5 generations, as long as we continue mass Harinam and mass book distribution, and continue surcharging the earthly atmosphere. You know, the non-devotees talk about, oh, the earth is polluted, we have to have a green movement, a carbon-free, this and that. No, no, no. That's not how you cleanse the earth's atmosphere. It's through the spiritual energies only that you can, which are light, that you can brush away the darkness of the material, polluted conceptions, which are all ultimately aimed at increasing materialism and godlessness. So I asked Prabhupada, will there be an actual revolution? Because I kept thinking, in my understanding of history over the last several hundred years, anytime there was a major change in government, it happened violently with a revolution, the American Revolution, the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution. And Prabhupada said to me, oh, no, 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 no. It's not going to happen with violence. It's going to happen because so many generations of souls have now taken birth with godly sentiments. They will be demanding godly government. That's the future of this Hare Krishna movement here on this earth, directly from Srila Prabhupada. I have some more to read, but due to the time factor, I would like to ask if anyone has any questions that they would like to ask. Okay. Do we have a microphone? Because no one can hear the questions otherwise. Okay. Prabhu, can you run around, please? Okay, just shout it out. Quickly, though. Thank you.
Prabhuji, you mentioned the purport of Canto 11, that Krishna doesn't want to loiter around. So how does it apply that for an acharya, especially when we see Prabhupada's lifetime after 1965, he had 2 heart attacks in Jaladuta. Then he had a health upset where he requested the devotees to pray to the deities for him to be there still.
That's a natural sentiment. I'm sorry to interrupt, but to give others. It's a natural sentiment that we do not want the spiritual master to physically leave. That is vapu. We want that because we are so limited ourselves. We must have that physical presence in our senses and in our mind. However, we should understand Prabhupada has not left. This is so important that you understand. You directly have Prabhupada as your Siksha Guru for 9,500 years. Prabhupada said, I will never die. I live in the words of my books, which will become law books for the whole human race for 10,000 years. In that way, Prabhupada has not left, and the devotees' prayers have been answered. That's my understanding. So we ask a few more questions.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna
Prabhu,
back.
It's very nice class that you have given. I would like to comment first that the question that I want to put forward is, you said about repeated birth and death, and one is material and a spiritual. Can you just put a bit light on it? Because I think I missed it.
The exact question is?
You said that repeated birth and death, it occurs.
Repeated birth and death is...
one is material.
And then what?
And then you said in spiritual God-conscious society, the repeated birth and death it may occur. That
when there is a God-conscious society, those souls go back to Godhead. And the next generation of souls are born as devotees. That's the simplest way I can say. Yes, of course, birth and death continue. Prabhupada has explained, it is extraordinarily rare, just like in Krishna Lila, that a soul like the hunter who shot the arrow. A Vaikuntha airplane appeared. Krishna did not die. Krishna was right there while the hunter was begging forgiveness for shooting at what he thought was a deer, right? And Krishna immediately called for a Vaikuntha airplane, and that hunter was taken to Vaikuntha Loka directly. That's unusual, to say the least. But what is the normal practice, not practice, but what is the normal transcendental procedure is, when you are finally, when devotees are finally free from all material conceptions, finally free from every trace of any material attachment, they will have to take another birth anyway. They will. But that birth will be somewhere in the universes, so many universes, where exactly Krishna is appearing, and they will take that birth to join Krishna on that world, in that universe, for his leelas. And then from there, when they pass out of those bodies, then they'll go back directly to Krishna Loka. So for all of us, the normal procedure, if we become pure devotees, is we will take another birth in that way. And until we become pure devotees, there is never any loss and never any diminution. We will, if we have to take another birth, it will be in the mood of devotee, in the family of devotees. So we can't become Krishna conscious except for all of you creating an atmosphere for everyone else. We require the association of devotees. So any future births, if we're not yet pure, will be a birth where we can continue where we left off. So in that way, I think of birth and death. Prabhu, yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna back.
If one has a service that is considered by that devotee to be almost overwhelming in the scope of it, speaking specifically about what we're doing in the Middle East, is it okay to pray for longer life in this life to try to do a little more in that area?
I understand your question. I will give my personal understanding, not exactly quoting a shastra, so please forgive that. Prabhupada's mission is so broad. It's changing the whole world, as we spoke of, changing the curriculum of every school in the world, one step at a time. Every school on the planet? Do you know how much service Prabhupada has left for us to do? So, is it okay to pray for either longer life or a body to continue helping Prabhupada in that way? Well, there is a risk in taking another birth. If Maharaj Bharat was a pure devotee and had to take birth as a deer. So there's always a risk. However, on the other side, that's exactly what I know that you pray for, and I know that I pray for, and other devotees pray for. We're not done with our service. We want it to continue. It's such ecstatic, blissful taste. We don't want to give up. We don't care. Krishna, you can send me to any planet. You can even send me to a hellish world. But as long as I don't forget you, or as we pray every day, deeply, to Srimati Tulsi with great attention, my dear Srimati Tulsi Maharani, I bow before you again and again. Please grant me the privilege of devotional service life after life after life. That's our prayer to Tulsi. We want that privilege, and we're not selfish. We'll go on. If we can serve, then the spiritual master doesn't have to come back looking for us. If we take another birth with that blessing, we'll be looking for the spiritual master. And that should be the goal of anyone who takes another birth. Hare Krishna. So I hope that, again, it's not a Shastra quote, but it's my understanding. At least it's my sentiment. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for a wonderful class. Maharaj, I would like to know, you talked about the environment getting cleansed because of the devotees by a Sankirtana movement. Specifically about India, what we see now is an explosion of worship of small and big gods. They are not demigods because the concept of demigods exists only within ISKCON. Otherwise, people are worshipping independent small gods and big gods, and there's an explosion of worship in all these temples. So is this a positive sign that things are evolving into something positive, or we have to look at it in some other way? Hare Krishna.
Personally, I would say to you, to all of us, that we haven't sold and distributed enough Bhagavad-gītas as it is. Because even with that sign, and if someone is so sincere that they could even somehow counteract all their earthly sins and be elevated to a planet of the demigod who they're worshiping, what is the result of that? A life of better sense gratification? Is that the result? Right now, the Sankirtan movement, which is the life of all spiritual knowledge, is happening here on this earth. So don't be so anxious to leave this earth in your future births. Because Lord Chaitanya's first prayer about Harinam Mahamantra, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, this is the life of transcendental knowledge. So where Sankirtan is, that's where we want our birth to be. Not anywhere else. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. So you have meant to inspire each other. For those of you who are grihasta and have children, please make sure that they get this curriculum side by side so they can bolt out of Mayapur Dham or Vrindavan Dham or whatever Dham temple they're living in, bolt out as world-class preachers. This museum we're building is a marriage between the Science Museum of the Vedic Planetarium and the Bhaktivedanta Institute. It's like a marriage. So similarly, all of our book distributors in the future, it will be like a marriage between you and the Bhaktivedanta Institute. You will be distributing Prabhupada's books forever, but explaining them in a very wonderful, profound way to counteract 15 years of being brainwashed in schools to be an atheist. So that is our mission, and please inspire all, keep inspiring me and keep inspiring everyone around you that we're not here to retire. We're here to become empowered Sankirtan devotees, supporters of the Sankirtan Yajna, and burst into the world as Sankirtan warriors. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.